I'm Steven. That's JJ. That's John. We're from Just Got Played, and we just played Tiny Epic Vikings. So this is the deluxe edition, but we didn't actually play with any of the deluxe components. And I'm going to show you how the game is played, and I won't include any of the deluxe components either. So let's go to the table. I'll show you how it's played, and then we'll come back and we'll tell you what we think about it.
Here's a setup for a 3-player game of Tiny Epic Vikings. So you can see the map is on the 1 to 3 player side. The back side is for 4 players. The 3 different players have their boats out in fjords along the edge of the map. And there are 10 different favor cards out on the board. So you can see the game is actually played over 3 eras that are tracked here on the era mat. In the first era, you're going to draft 4 Viking cards, and then 5, and then 6, and it tells you what direction to do the drafting. So I've already got a hand here of 4. And so let's just talk about what you do on your turn. What you do on your turn is you play one of these Viking cards. There's a couple of different ways you can play it. You can play it as a battle action, which is what this first space is up here, where you trigger a battle. We'll talk about that more later. Or you can trigger it to do the leader action and possibly the rune action. So let's have a look. So let's say we're the first player here. I got the first player marker. So let's say that we played this card. What this says is I can move 1 ship 3 spaces. I don't have to use all 3. So let's say I went, here, 1, 2. All right, so I'm going to go where this village is. I can pillage that village if I want. So I spend 2 steel. You start the game with 2 of each of the 3 resources. And now I have this village, which I can dedicate later if I want. So I've played this card, and because I moved my boat there, I also can deploy settlers. So I could deploy up to 3 settlers if I could afford it. In this case, I cannot because each settler deployment costs 1 food. So let's say I spend 2, and I'm going to put 2 people out on this island. Now I get to collect this rune because I have the most influence on this island. The boat is worth 2. These are worth 1 each. So that's 4, and I have boats on the ground. Now I have boots on the ground, which is comes from anything that's not a boat, essentially. So what happens when I take this? I'm going to increase the fury of the corresponding god by 1, which matters for end of game scoring, and then I collect this rune. So now I have that. Now if I go back to my card, I have this action, and this action down here says that I can move one of my settlers 1 space along these ferry routes if I have that rune. Well, coincidentally, I did that move specifically to get that rune, so I have that, so I can do this secondary ability, and I could say, well, you know what, I'm just going to send this guy back along this ferry route, and I'm also going to claim this rune and increase that god's fury. So that's a pretty good turn. I collected 2 runes, although I am a little thin there. And that's my turn. So next, the yellow player would go. So maybe they're going to go here and pillage this and then sail back out to sea. And maybe that was their turn. Okay, fine. And the blue player, what are they going to do? Well, you know what? Maybe they're going to come down here and pillage this village. Okay, so they're going to collect that. And then they're going to land 2 people here. Now, they have more settlers than I do. Which means I have to remove one of my settlers. Of course, I only have 1, so I'm going to remove that one. And now I've lost this rune. That's going to go to the blue player, which again is going to increase the god's fury 1 more because that rune changed hands. So maybe that's what they did on their turn. So that's the kind of the flow of the game. Let me show you what some of the other actions are. Here is a build action. So if I played this card for the leader ability, I could build. I do have 2 wood, so I could spend that 2 wood. You can see that this boat costs 2 wood. Everything else is more expensive. You can build these things. You don't have to build them in order. That's all I can afford. This needs to go in in a fjord neighboring one of my other pieces. So I could stick this here maybe since I control this island. And then look at the secondary thing. Well, look, I just lost my blue rune, didn't I? So now I can't do this action, which would have been to collect a couple of steel. All right, so now I've got those 2 cards played. And then again, it would go around to my opponents and they would do their thing. And then let's say maybe I played this card. So this card says that I can harvest 2 resources. So I can choose whatever I want. Maybe I wanted to get steel and a food. Okay. Also, because I have uncovered this space here, I will get, when I built my boat, I will get another food. These spaces, if you build these things, they're extra. You can choose whatever resource you want. Incidentally, when I talked about influence, I talked about boats docked are 2 and settlers on the ground are 1. These are 4. So if you build those, they're pretty useful. But they are sort of expensive, 5 and 7 wood. Now, if you look down here, it says if I have 2 sea runes, I can do this action. Well, if you look, I do have, I'm calling them sea runes. I mean, this rune, right? This rune and that rune, I do have 2 of those. So I can do this action. What this action actually is it says I can trigger a battle with this card. Now, triggering a battle with a card is something you can normally do on your turn. We'll talk about that in a second. But this one, it's actually something else that I can do specifically with this card. So I put it face down. I have now triggered a battle, and I choose the favor card that we're battling over. So maybe I say I'm going to choose this card. So this card says whoever wins the battle is going to get this card. For scoring purposes, it's going to have these 2 runes only for scoring at the end of the game. And but you immediately collect these 3 resources. So I'm going to say, you put that here and you say, all right, this is what we're battling over. So maybe the blue player on their turn decides they're going to join the battle. And then on the yellow player's turn, they decide to do something else, right? Maybe they're collecting resources. So then when it gets back to me, we decide to we have to resolve this battle because this card is down, right? You can see I have 8 strength, but you can see, the blue player had 10 strength as long as they have the 1 steel to spend, which is the cost associated with this. So they win the battle. They get this card, and I have lost. So what happens when you lose? You look at the god associated here, right? So their fury goes up by 1. And then also you get to trigger the action on their mat for when you lose a battle. So this says each other player must remove 1 of their settlers from an island of their choice. So in this case, I hadn't put any out for yellow, but blue would have to take 1 of these off. And that would be gone. All right, a couple other things I didn't talk about. I do have this other card in my hand. My turn started by me revealing that and doing that, but it's still my turn. I still get to play this card. So I could play this card to move a settler and then not do that action because I don't have those 3 runes. Or I could start another battle, right? So I do have the 1 steel. So I could start this battle and choose another favor card to battle over. And then when it got around to me again, perhaps I would win that. The reasons that you want to win these things, other than getting the resources, is these symbols. You're going to save these. You're actually going to put them. There's space here to put them at the top of your mat. You can only ever have 3 of these. If you ever get an extra one, you can put 1 back. But at the end of the game, these cards are going to be worth 5, 4, or 3 points for each one of these symbols, depending on which god has the most fury or whatever, most, middle, or least fury. And the gods that you have out are going to be random. There are several of them to choose from. I can't remember how many come in the box, but if you have the expansion, I think there's 12. The runes that are out here are useful because they allow you to play cards, and they are also worth more points at the end of the game. But that's where all the points come from. The fury of the gods determine which of these runes are worth more points, and you get points for these, and you get points for those. All right, so one thing I didn't mention is, so I did get this village, and I talked about dedicating this village. So after you do the actions on your card, so for instance, say I did this action, and then I skipped that action, I can dedicate a village. So you can do this once per turn. And there are a few different places you can dedicate a village. So every god has the ability for you to dedicate a village there, and that raises their fury by 2, which again might be important for scoring. This symbol means that there can only ever be as many villages on this space as there are the number of players. So each god has a space for that. The Aromat also has spaces for these. So this one allows you to move a settler 1 space. This one allows you to move 1 ship up to 2 spaces. This is a 2 times harvest, and this allows you to do a build action. So again, you're going to do this over 3 different eras in which you draft a different number of cards. So you'll have 4 actions in the first, then 5, and then 6. So basically you're going to have 15 actions over the course of the game, or 15 cards that you play for their actions or battle power at the end of the game. And then you're just going to add up all the points from the runes that you've collected and see who won.
All right, so Tiny Epic Vikings, 1 to 4 players. We played it at 3 just now. It says time 30 to 60 minutes. That's about right. I mean, our first play probably took about an hour once I'd explained how to play.
I think with the explanation, it took about an hour.
Oh, really?
I was looking at the clock. Yeah, it didn't take too long.
Yeah, I think the 30 is a little optimistic, but 45 to 60 I think is right where you're going to fit in.
Probably if you played it a few times, you'd be like bang, 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 bang.
Sure.
Or even the drafting. The drafting probably takes a little while. You got to internalize all those cards.
Well, let's also be honest. Those numbers don't ever matter anything. It's always going to take a different time based on your group.
I get mad when they're way off. So this is not way off.
They are accurate as they can be for a board game, for sure.
Right.
So this was my second Tiny Epic game. Does it seem to be that way? I feel like I played Westerns, and that time wasn't too bad either.
They're usually pretty quick.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not really overly complicated or anything, so the teach is usually easy, and as long as people are taking their turns, just like anything, if you get a couple people that are stunned by AP, things like Tiny Epic Quest specifically and Galaxy, those are a little crunchier, so I could see that dragging on a little bit longer, but for the most part, that's the sweet spot they seem to aim for.
I feel like if you got a little box and it's called Tiny Epic, it's going to take about an hour to play. Just my personal thing.
Epic should take forever to play, right? That's what Epic means.
Yeah.
But whatever.
It's going to take you forever to play all the games. There you go. They keep coming out.
Play them all in a series. In what order?
That's the thing about Tiny Epic series is you know what you're getting. It's going to be about an hour. It's going to be a lot of components stuffed into a box. It's going to be a unique theme that really feels like the theme that they're going for. The quality in what you do is going to be different across but you're going to get a lot of this consistencies as you go along. And that hour playtime, that's pretty consistent. Teach and play about an hour.
All right. Well, this is not a review of the Tiny Epic series. This is a review of Tiny Epic Vikings.
We can cut this up.
Let's talk what we like and we don't like about Tiny Epic Vikings. So we'll start with our likes. My like for Tiny Epic Vikings is, I don't know what they're called, the Lord card, the Viking cards, whatever, the cards that you're drafting. They're multi-use cards, right? There's 3 different things essentially on there that are very important. There's the combat value if you play it for combat. There's the and then the other abilities, the leader, lord, whatever ability, followed by the rune ability that are chained together. But then there's also the symbol that's on the card. Because I know when I'm drafting, sometimes I'll look at a card and I'll look at the rune ability and I'll say like, well, I need to get another blue one that I can play before this one so that I can trigger that rune ability, right? So, there's really 3 different things you need to be looking at. And I like multi-use cards when you're drafting also, right? Because then the reasoning, the decisions, etc. are complex, but also usually, that last card you're handed isn't such a disappointment. You can find something to do with it, usually. So, yeah, I would say that's, those multi-use cards is what I really liked about this game. John, what did you really like?
So, very similar to that, I love the drafting aspect. I'm a huge drafting fan. I just love any kind of drafting game because there's so much interplay of what are they taking? What do I want? What can I combo up here? And this might be my favorite unique drafting element because, as he said, with the multi-use cards, you're looking at it, and with the rune requirements, the bottom ability might take 3 pink runes. So you're looking and going, well, if I take this, and then later I get another pink rune, and I go over here and get this pink island, that'll give me the 3 I need, and I get this really big play. So not only are you drafting that same style of trying to see what your opponents are doing and trying to take things that they might need, you're trying to combo off of that and build a hand where you're just like, I'm going to play this, into this. And you can kind of build a plan as you go along, and I just really think that's a unique aspect of it. Something I've never seen in a drafting game, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, cool. JJ, what did you like about it?
I like the fact that you had the gods. They didn't really come into play a lot, but you have like 10 of them or whatever. So they have their special ability. So you're gonna use it when you lose a battle, which is nice. You get something for losing, and you get the gods that are in there. They're all the typical Thor, Hel, all those people, Odin. So I like that as far as replay value. So JJ, he likes his replays. So having that in there is very good. I do want to piggyback on what you guys said, the drafting and the Viking cards having multiple uses, which is very good because it gives me a feel more so like Terraforming Mars drafting over like It's a Wonderful World, because the cards kind of build on each other, but they don't, because you need the rune, but then anything else on the card doesn't really build on it too much. But I like those facts, and then that gives it more replay there because you're not gonna be able to see all the Viking cards during your game. So those two things, replay value. I like it.
So what did you dislike about the game?
Okay, so I'm going first with this, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so the game was quick. I would have to say, well, as we know, I didn't like the battle sequence in there, so I would go with that as my number one. The fact that if somebody starts a battle, you can't start a battle somewhere else. You have to wait until the turn's over. So somebody could just lock you out of starting a new battle that you might need or something like that. It's a tiny con. I really don't have too many, but that one was pretty much it. I mean, it's a tiny epic game. It's supposed to go fast, so I don't think any of the specific turns or any of the phases will take a long time to go through. It's pretty simple and quick.
Off of that, that's something I didn't think of. If you start the battle and it comes back to your turn, you resolve it on your turn, then you get to take your next turn. You can start 3 battles in a row and lock people out, like you said. You're just like, we're fighting over these cards.
Yeah.
And you can really just stop people from being able to put battles on where they want. I considered that.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, over the course of the game, you're going to get 15 cards. So it's unlikely somebody's going to do 15 battles and lock you entirely out ever.
Sure, but it can make for a very bad round of just like, I want this one, and then someone starts 3 battles in a row, and you're having to wait for that to even be a
and if you
possibility.
drafted some cards for combat purposes when you're doing the drafting and you don't get to choose what you're using them essentially to fight over, that sort of sucks. So I mean, I get that. For me, it's interesting. You said that the game played pretty quickly, but even though it played pretty quickly, I still felt like it overstayed its welcome. And I don't mean because it was too long, but I felt like, gosh, somewhere near the end of the second age or early in the third age, that the game was sort of over and we were just going through the motions, to play out the rest of our actions and do stuff. Now, maybe that was just randomly how we, ended up drafting cards, and the cards that came out in the third age, I'm not sure, but it did just sort of feel that way. I felt like I was enjoying this. This is fun. And at some point I was like, now I'm still playing to finish the game.
Yeah.
So, John, I know you said something similar to that.
Yeah, so to build upon that, there's 3 eras that you play. In the first era, you get 4 cards, and then the second era, you draft 5 cards, and the last one, you draft 6 cards. However, like you said, by the end of Age 2, we had kind of jockeyed for position already. We were on the islands. We were going to fight over the rest of the game. I actually had every resource I needed to by the time I entered the third age. So during the third age, I didn't want resource cards. I didn't really want too many of the battle cards because there weren't many left, and they were all of the lesser values. I think F was the majority of one, and that was the lowest value. So really, the entire third round felt like a tack on to me. Like it had the most cards, but I did the least amount of stuff during that. As a matter of fact, the entire third round was me and Steven moving boats in. He moves his boat in, I move my boat in. Because unfortunately, when you move a boat in, you don't just join the battle, you displace the other boat. And we were just like neck and neck, so it's just move.
Yeah.
And then I ended up with more boats, so I won that and consequently won the game because of it. But my entire third round was just like fighting over who's going to be in that dock, and I didn't do anything else of substance. So I wish they had flipped it. 6 cards in the beginning, make resources a little bit harder to come by, then 5, then the final 4 is just like, we're going to be fighting this. And I wish someone would take this concept and expand it to just a drafting game, and then like you got the era cards. In era 3, it's all about the battles and the movements, and era 1 it's more about the resources, similar to 7 Wonders. And I really think that you could make a very exciting and interesting game in that genre just by focusing on the deck building element with some area control as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had sort of jumped out and grabbed 3 of the island runes, and I was defending those, and they were useful because it gave me that extra rune, so I could always play cards that I wanted to do and then get the rune action. But it also made me the big target right in the third round, so that wasn't great. Maybe strategically that wasn't the best choice. But again, I think I probably could have won the game if I had just had more boat cards.
Yeah,
because it did sort of come down to us moving those boats around, and that's not the kind of combat you want. The other kinds of combat are better, like who played the better card, or who can maneuver in more people into the settlement or whatever. But yeah.
And we also didn't change order at all 3 rounds, so that was interesting.
Steven was first player the entire time.
So if there was another round, I wouldn't have been.
That's true. Well, I was waiting to strike until those runes were worth points.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have taken them if it was round 3 or 4. So yeah, it was an interesting game. It's exactly what you expect from the Tiny Epic series. You got good production. You've got an interesting theme that's absolutely on point.
Yeah.
It feels like you're playing that kind of theme. And if you like an area control game, this is a unique take on it. Drafting, unique take on that. So it's what you'd expect.
Yeah, if you like the theme, I thought the theme was really good, right? If you like Viking themed games, this really felt like there was a lot of Viking stuff all through it, with the leaders and the gods and everything else. And I would say, as far as Tiny Epic games go, this one probably, I've played them all. This one falls probably in the middle, so it's not up there with my favorites, which are like Tiny Epic Quest and Tiny Epic Galaxies and Tiny Epic Mechs. I like a lot. Those are probably my 3 favorites, but it's not at the bottom with like Tiny Epic Western or something like that either, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
As somebody that's only played Tiny Epic Western, I only have to go up, so this ranks higher than that for me.
Yeah, you have 2 now. You've got 2. So Tiny Epic Western is the bottom for you too.
There's enough now, Steven. You can do a Tiny Epic top 10.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know how many there are, but
So
There's like 12.
Yeah, there might be 12. I don't know.
Where does it fall in for you now?
Everything he's saying, I agree with completely. It's a nice middle of the road Tiny Epic game.
Okay.
It doesn't have any of the problems of Western. It doesn't reach the heights of Galaxy and Quest, because those are just 2 really unique, fun experiences. But it wasn't a bad game. If someone broke it out, I'd play it. It takes less than an hour. However, if I were searching out, like, I want to play an area control game, I'm probably not going to be going to this for that, but I don't think Tiny Epics are ever the go-to. It's portable, it's easy to teach, it's got good quality. So as far as a Tiny Epic game, I think it's pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to play Blood Rage, but in a small box with less playtime, because Blood Rage is you draft those cards and they're key, and there's area control, and it's Viking mythology themed, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of parallels here, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, cool. Well, that is our review of Tiny Epic Vikings. I'm Steven. That's JJ. John's over here. We are Just Got Played. If you enjoyed this review, then please give us a thumbs up. That does help us out. You can subscribe to see more videos like this. If you want to talk about this, look in the description of the video down below. There's links to our Discord channel where we talk about stuff, or our Facebook group, or you can follow us on any of the social media platforms you want. Those are all down there as well.
Also, we're live. You didn't even make it. We're all in the same room. So come tell us what you think here.
Yeah. John is here. I can poke him across the table.
He's here in the space. Yeah, we got a little space here. So this is our second review in like 6 months in the same room. So now we're all in the same room.
Yeah, we're very active on the Discord. So if you want to talk games
Discord,
or have any questions, come join us. It's a good way to waste time.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, till next time. Thanks for watching.